Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 26.2 released to the public yesterday along with iOS 18.7.3. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26.2 is out what's new video. We'll talk about the latest Apple news, we'll also talk about some new features as there's quite a few of those, and we'll talk about the overall experience so far. Not just my experience using it a day, but your experience as well based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video there's 3,600 votes and 59 comments, and I've gone over all the comments so far to see what the update has been like so far, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now the first thing is some new Apple stores. Apple opened a new store on Friday in Massachusetts at the Shops at Blackstone Valley. You can see it here on their website, so it should be open already, and it's available and opens tomorrow at 9:30, or it's open already by the time you're watching this video. They also opened a new store in India this past week. You'll see here Apple Noida opens to customers this Thursday, December 11th. So you can see it here where it's the 5th store in India. Last week, we had some huge news with 4 Apple executives leaving the company, and the major one being Alan Dye, who's largely responsible for Liquid Glass and leading the design on that. This week, however, there were rumors of Johnny Srouji leaving the company, who's the person in charge of leading Apple's own silicon. Those are the chips in the iPhones, Macs with the M1 to M5 now, and after those rumors, Johnny Srouji clarified to his team and said, "I love my team and I love my job at Apple, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon." I think this is great news as he's instrumental in the incredible silicon coming out of Apple that completely changed the game for Macs and leads in the way of iPhone and other devices. So this is great to hear, and I'm glad to have one great executive sticking around. Now back to apps. If we take a look at the App Store and then go under the Apps tab, you can actually see the top 2025 downloads this year. So Apple posted these where we've got the top free apps starting with ChatGPT, Threads, and Google, and then the top paid apps. Of course, we had last week with the awards for the App Store, and then of course Editor's Choice apps and more. So definitely check those out if you're interested. They're just on the Apps tab in the App Store. Apple this week also announced that they're adding 4 more games to Apple Arcade in January, including Cozy Cavern and Sago Mini's Jinja Garden. So you can see all of those here. I'll link this in the description, but this goes along with Potion Punch 2 Plus and True Skate Plus as well. This week we heard that Apple is working with Google on easier transfers, moving from Android to iPhone or from iPhone to Android, including the eSIM as well. It's starting to roll out on Pixel, but is expected in an iOS 26 beta soon. This is most likely due to rules in the EU allowing for OS portability, which will allow for easy data transfer from one device to another. Now we sort of have this already in our settings under cellular, and if you scroll to the bottom it says transfer phone number or transfer to Android. So if you tap on this, it says place your devices next to each other. But this is not the only thing they're making easy, it's the overall transfer in general. So it's going to be a little bit more simple, and hopefully we'll see it in 26.3. Now, Apple's digital car key, I have it here with my car, is one of those things that's just great to have. You use your phone as a key, you don't need to use your keys along with the car, and you leave those at home. And it works great, and it's rolling out to Porsche soon with the 2026 Macan and Cayenne. So those are things coming soon, and it's also coming to more Audi cars very soon as well. Now, as far as features that are already out, many people have been asking me about AirDrop with Pixel and if it still works after the iOS 26.2 update. So I have a Pixel 10 Pro right here, 10 Pro XL, and if we go into maybe photos, we'll see if we can AirDrop this here. It should work just fine. We'll go into Quick Share. So here on Quick Share on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, it shows up. We should be able to transfer it still, and I don't think they'll be able to change this. So we'll transfer it over. You'll see we've already got it, and now we have the same photo. So it's something that's definitely very nice to have. I'm glad it's on Pixel devices as well, and hopefully it's just a standard that's rolled out to everything. Also on Monday, Apple Fitness Plus will expand to 28 new markets. You can see on Apple's newsroom here where it says in the largest expansion since launch, the service will be available in Chile, Hong Kong, India, Japan, the Netherlands, Singapore, Taiwan, and more, and adds dubbing in Spanish, German, and Japanese. There's quite a few other countries listed here, so I'll link this in the description if you want to check it out, and it goes over all the different features and people presenting the workouts and more. Another feature that just rolled out in Japan is being able to send messages via satellite if you're in an area with low signal. So you can see it here, and it's posted on Apple's Japan website, but if we translate it, translate it into English, give it a second, and you can see it here. iPhone 14 or later or Apple Watch Ultra 3 users can now continue to connect even when they are in a place where there is no signal. So this is great that it's rolling out around the world. Now, if you use Apple Pay, there's a few updates depending on where you live. So Apple Pay Later is now available using Klarna in France and Italy. That's found in Wallet. If you're paying later, you can select that option. So if you press the plus at the top and then go to your Pay Later options, you'll see it there. Also, Apple Tap to Pay on iPhone is now available in Hong Kong. So again, Apple announced this on their website, and you can see it here as well. Now that iOS 26.2 released to the public, Apple updates its enterprise website with new features as well. They don't tell us in their notes for whatever reason, but you can see all of the different updates here, where users are now prevented from saving passwords as expected when disabling autofill and blocking the Passwords app. Empty placeholder spaces are removed when a home screen layout is applied. Phone numbers will not be deregistered for FaceTime when the allow chat restriction is set to false. GAL contact searches return results as expected in the unified layout view of the phone app. Managed Apple accounts are eligible to delete end-to-end encrypted iCloud data when setting up a new device, and passcodes used for previous devices are unavailable. Also, users no longer bypass account modification restrictions by using first-party apps such as Notes, Calculator, Photos, and so on to sign into their Apple accounts. Also, if wallpaper modification is restricted, touching and holding an app icon and tapping Edit Home Screen will respect the restriction. Also, automated device management enrollments now complete as expected following a restore from an iCloud backup. And finally, content filter network extensions no longer cause network connections to drop if the host application is hidden or updating. So all of these updates are included with iOS 26.2 for Enterprise. There's also a couple features that Apple mentioned in their release notes that we didn't know about in iOS 26.2. The first one has to do with music under Playlists. Within Playlists, Favorites is now at the top, so that's something that's been updated. Another thing that's been updated in their notes you can see here is multi-pack accessory pairing in the Home app lets you use the same setup code to easily enroll multiple accessories when sold together. So those are a couple things that they've added here. Also, there's 2 bug fixes listed here as well, where it fixes an issue where pre-release albums in the Apple Music library were not immediately playable at their release time. And it fixes an issue where a privacy and security setting may incorrectly be marked as managed by an enterprise organization. So they've fixed all of those things. I wish they would push these out in bigger notes with all of them combined. When it comes to security updates, there's quite a few of those as well. So on Apple's security release website, you'll see the latest update with iOS 26.2, and there's quite a few updates here. So many updates, and definitely a reason to update if you haven't already if you're on iOS 26. But for example, Screen Time, the impact was an app may be able to access sensitive user data, and the description or fix is a logging issue was addressed with improved data redaction. And then you can see the CVE number and the person that submitted the issue. But everything from telephony to WebKit and much more has been patched. So lots of different things that have been fixed here. Aside from security updates, many people were asking me if there's a modem update, and there isn't, going from iOS 26.2 Beta 3 to iOS 26.2's public release. So that's something that really hasn't been updated, but it is updated if you're coming from iOS 26.1. As far as app updates, well, there's a couple things worth mentioning. For example, Shazam, if you use that app, Shazam has announced that a feature showing the most popular segment of a song when it was recognized will actually be coming soon. So the popular segments spotlight the key moments within a track that drove the most Shazam activity within the past week. So we should be seeing that soon. I don't see anything available here yet, but hopefully we'll see that rolling out and we can see what part of a song is most popular. Also, if you use Spotify, they recently updated it with music videos. So you can see their press release here, where Spotify expands music videos in beta to premium users in the US and Canada. So that's available now. Also, there's an app that seems like it returned after it was once removed from the App Store. If we go into the App Store and search for iFixit, there's actually a new repair tool that they've added. So it says join the repair revolution, and it's your pocket repair genius. So it helps you troubleshoot and then maybe repair your different devices. So that's available now. Also, I wanted to mention a couple things with iOS 26.2's public release. If you're a developer and you are on iOS 26.2 RC2, you'll have an update as well. So make sure you turn off the beta if you haven't already, and then check for an update and you'll see it here. There's actually a new build as well. So if we go into About, you can see the new build number is 23C55. That lets you know you're on the latest public release, and that has all of the bug fixes in addition to what we had with RC2. There's a few others as well. Also, I wanted to mention iOS 18.7.3 as Apple has made an unexpected change so far. If you're already on iOS 18, any version of iOS 18, but your device, such as this iPhone 13 Pro Max, also supports iOS 26, you'll no longer be presented with the option to update to iOS 18 versions. So if we go into settings, you'll see it's on iOS 18.3.2. If we go back here, so we'll go back. Then we go into software update. We have the update for iOS 26.2, but no update for 18.7.3. For whatever reason, you could get it if you were maybe on the developer update, but you cannot get it on the public release. So this is a bit of a shame, and you can see it here with the iPhone XS Max. So with the iPhone XS Max, you'll see iOS 18.7.3 is available. So it's available on devices that support it, but don't support iOS 26. So I would love to see Apple give the option to those already on iOS 18 to update to the latest security updates, but it seems they've taken that away. Now, when it comes to the iPhone 17 sales, they continue to soar with the exception of the iPhone Air. The iPhone 17, 17 Pro, and iPhone 17 Pro Max seem to be a huge hit this year based on sales. But in the third quarter of 2025, Apple was the world's best-selling smartphone according to Counterpoint Research with their iPhone 16 Pro Max, not the 17 series. So this is still selling quite well, or the iPhone 16 in general, maybe because of the different discounts people are getting, but I would expect this to change very soon with the iPhone 17. As far as releases this week, well, if you didn't see this already, Apple also released an AirPods update for AirPods Pro 2 and AirPods 3, and that's version 8B30 and 8B28, depending on which device you have. I have a separate video covering everything new, and for the most part, I think they sound better. They overall just work better with connectivity. I did have one exception with the Mac where one of the AirPods dropped out, but that seemingly is resolved with the latest update, with the latest Mac update, so it seems like it's fixed. Another release that came out this week is a Safari technology preview. Apple pushes these out every couple of weeks, and you'll see it here with version 2.3.3. So it was released on December 8th, and it's available for macOS Tahoe and macOS Sequoia. So if you're testing it out, it's available now. As far as future updates, well, before the end of the year, we could get one more update to iOS 26.3 Beta 1. This is what we see every year, so maybe we'll see that Monday, along with that Fitness Plus release, but we don't have any specific timeline from Apple. If that does come out, we wouldn't expect an update until maybe the second week of January when Apple returns from their holiday vacation. Then we could see iOS 26.3 Beta 2, and then of course, as I've mentioned before, the new Siri 2.0 update with Apple Intelligence is expected sometime in March. And then, of course, iOS 27 is expected in June at WWDC, typically around June 8th or 9th. So that will be the first time we see it, of course, with a September release. So things are moving by quickly. And of course, we can expect some major updates soon, at least once we get to March with maybe the Siri update. Now, for those of you fortunate enough to be able to install iOS 18.7.3, I have it on this 16 Pro Max. It's actually doing quite well. No real issues to report. It's just a security update. So if you are able to update, I would do that as it brings those security updates. You'll see here, it just says important security fixes and is recommended for all users. So that's pretty much all it has included in 18.7.3. Other than that, it should be stable and what you would expect. Now, we've had iOS 26.2 for a while now in beta with RC and RC2, but now with the public release, we've had it for a day or so, and I wanted to talk about the overall experience so far. So far, it seems to be super smooth, even compared to RC2. So that's what I'm seeing in many of the reports. Scrolling, ProMotion, everything else seems to be fixed. Even on older devices, I haven't really seen any complaints so far. So far it's been pretty great as far as that goes. Also, the widget panel stutter is fixed, and I've mentioned this before. It was fixed from RC2, but it seems like it's much better for everyone. It seems more stable, and generally most people are positive about it coming from iOS 26.1. It fixes heating issues for sure. Also, it seems RAM management has been resolved for most. However, when I started filming this video initially, I went in to show the YouTube community poll on the post page, and it had to reload YouTube even though I had just been in that app. So I'm not sure that's completely fixed. Battery life seems to be better so far, but again, we'll talk about that in a moment. And on RC2, I had it respring, just unlocking the phone, so hopefully that's fixed. And there were many reports of odd auto brightness behavior. But again, we don't know if that's fixed so far. Many people said going in and maybe unlocking your phone, it would just have odd behavior there. So we don't really know exactly what was going on there, but it looks like that may be resolved. The worst thing I've heard is alarms weren't working for some in RC2. However, I've tested them out both with reminders and regular alarms, and they seem to be just fine. And the main issue was really visual glitches, which some of them still remain. For example, if we pull down the control center, close it, go back in, some people are seeing it pull up Spotlight search as well. So that's something some people are seeing. I'm not seeing that myself, but visual glitches are still there. However, some are still having issues with maps on CarPlay. The second they go to hit go, it crashes going to that destination. Also on CarPlay, sometimes it takes a long time to connect. However, with the public release today, I've heard from at least one of you that says it's much better and faster to connect. Some have also suggested it's the new scaling feature in the options, so be sure to try that out if you haven't already. Also, the issue with CarPlay being pixelated on Mercedes-Benz in particular seems like it's resolved. I went to the bottom of Apple's forums here, and you'll see there's no new posts since the public release is out, so maybe they've resolved it. The wallpaper bug is still ever present, it seems, so if we close this, swipe up, it seems very minimal. Maybe they fixed it, but it might change just a little bit, so hopefully they've resolved that. Now the keyboard bug, I haven't heard from anyone that it's resolved yet, so going into notes, for example, sometimes typing this is a new note, it could do some odd auto-correcting, or sometimes even if you press the correct key, it could select the one next to it. This is something I think will get fixed in the future, as there's no notes about Apple fixing it, and they should be aware as there's a whole YouTube video about it and many people complaining about it. Now, overall performance seems to be pretty good for most people. Like I mentioned, ProMotion is nice and smooth, where initially people were complaining on older devices. It seems like Apple fixed that with the public release. Scrolling back and forth, the widget page is smooth. Scrolling on the control center, well, that was a little stuttery, but is generally smooth. So again, there's probably still some bugs they need to work out, but overall performance is good, but we'll have to give it a few days. When it comes to the overall heat and thermals, well, surprisingly, it was nice and cool even after installing the update. I did want to point out that it looks like I've got one more nick here on the actual frame of the phone. This might just be from setting it down, one here too, but this is typical on all phones I have right around the camera. But either way, heat seems to be pretty good, but let's go ahead and run benchmarks and then take a look. So I haven't run benchmarks on this version yet, so let's go ahead and do that and then take a look at thermals. If we take a look with the thermal camera, at the hottest point, we're around 33.5 degrees Celsius. So quite cool overall. It was a little bit hotter than that last week. Benchmarks completed for the first time, and we have 3,794 for single core, 9,612 for multi-core. That's not the highest I've seen, but what I've found with benchmarks is they're not really showing very much accuracy, I think, as typically you can run these 3 times in a row and get over 10,000 for multi-core. So it's very hit or miss, and basically the phone's barely warm at all, and it seems like it's handling everything just fine. So let me know your scores in the comments below. We'll check this in a few days and see what it's like. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.2, well, if you're on iOS 26 of any variant, I definitely would. However, cautiously, I would recommend installing it from iOS 18 at this point. Now, it depends on the device you have. If you have an iPhone 16, you probably will be fine with it. But I would just wait a few days if you're still uncertain and see what it's like after using it for a few days or what we're seeing online. When it comes to overall battery, if we go into settings, battery, and battery health, you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 30 cycles on the 17 Pro Max. If we take a look at all battery usage, when I installed the update, I had 4 hours and 48 minutes of screen active time, 6 hours and 39 minutes of screen idle time, and used 67% of the battery. The day before, well, it actually seems like it's getting better. This was on the RC2, and it seems like it's getting even better over time. So hopefully in the next few days, it stabilizes. But if you're not seeing great battery life yet, give it a few days so it completes everything in the background, and then typically we'll get much better. Now, as far as what you had to say about the experience, let's take a look at some of your comments. Steve George 5605 said, Mini 13 running 26.2 and the phone is running pretty smoothly and it seems that the battery life is good. Haven't noticed any new issues, no overheating, little or no screen stuttering when switching apps, etc. Chris Palmer 4983 said, I've been using iOS 26.2 on my iPhone 17 Pro. Battery life has been good. The standby battery drain has been great. I easily get all-day battery life with moderate use. Overall, performance has been smooth and snappy. This is a step toward the Apple software we've been missing for quite a while now. Moonraker11 said, just updated to iOS 26.2 on my iPhone 17 Pro Max, and the speed increase is noticeable. Movie4You X1C said, I updated to iOS 26.2 and it fixes the stutter slide issue between my widget screen and home screen. It slides smoothly now. I was having lag issues on that interface with iOS 26.1 before. Roma Eterna says, on iOS 26.2 on iPhone 16 Pro. Is it just me or has anyone else experienced freezes? My phone freezes when it's hot or when too many apps are running. First time this has happened, and 6 people gave it a thumbs up, so it seems like it could be an issue for more people. D27557 says, I've had an issue with Spotlight Search opening behind Control Center when opening the Control Center. The first time you swipe down to open the Control Center, it works normally, but if you close it and immediately open it again, Spotlight Search also opens behind it. I'm on an iPhone 16 Pro, just updated to 26.2 today. When it comes to iPhone storage, if we go back, go to General and then iPhone Storage, give it a second and we'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll see we still have pretty much the same we had last time. 23.01 gigabytes is what's being used. 9.07 gigabytes for Apple Intelligence, 13.93 gigabytes for iOS. Basically the exact same we had on RC2 or previous updates. Of course, system data is taking up 15.3 gigabytes, but this goes up and down as needed as it's cache data, so I wouldn't really pay attention to that. When it comes to iOS 18.7.3, I think iOS 18 will be remembered as old reliable. It gets an A grade. While it's technically new, iOS 18 has proven quite good after a year of updates. However, you're not able to actually update if you're on iOS 18.7.2 on a device that supports iOS 26. I think this is a big misstep by Apple, so it's only getting an A as it's still the gold standard for stability, and many users are still refusing to update, even in favor of stability over security. So reliability, battery life matter to many people, and iOS 18 seems to deliver with that now. When it comes to iOS 26.2, it's smooth, but not completely finished, or basically unfinished. It gets a B or B+, and iOS 26.2 seems to fix most of the issues with iOS 26.1 and makes iOS 26 buttery smooth for most devices. However, battery life is still yet to be seen, as it needs to take a few days to check that out. And with RC2, about 50% said it was worse, so we'll have to wait and see what happens here. It also still has odd bugs here and there. The stutter I showed you in the Control Center, so still needs a little bit of refinement, but hopefully that will come in the near future. So maybe when a new build releases to the public, it will finally be finished and we won't have to wait a year. But again, I would love to see the option to either downgrade to iOS 18 or have the option to upgrade from 18.7.2 to 18.7.3. So that's everything with iOS 26.2 and iOS 18.7.3. Quite an unexpected release on a Friday, but so far they seem to be going quite well. I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below, and of course if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.